conference room, pulsating with energy. Over 300 entrepreneurs sat on the edges of their seats, their murmurs weaving through the air like a soft melody. They were here to see Ethan Cole, the man who had once redefined modern retail with his brainchild, CityCart, before it crumbled spectacularly 5 years ago. As he strode onto the stage, shadows danced across his face, revealing the silver strands in his hair and the deep lines etched by sleepless nights. Yet in his eyes sparkled a sharpness that spoke of wisdom gained from both the zenith of success and the pit of failure. "I used to be you," he began, his voice reverberating through the room, steady and full of conviction. "Hungry, restless, desperate to prove that I was right and the world was wrong." The crowd leaned in, captivated. They could feel the weight of his words, the echo of their own aspirations resonating within them. "I built a company worth billions," Ethan continued, his tone shifting, growing somber. "And I lost it all. Not because of competition, not because of the market, but because of ego." The lights dimmed slightly, and a haunting photograph appeared on the screen behind him. The old CityCart headquarters, once a bustling hive of activity, now a silent husk, its windows darkened and lifeless. "I believed growth could solve every problem," he lamented, his voice tinged with regret. "More products, more stores, more employees, more everything. I forgot that leadership isn't about control, it's about clarity." He paused, giving his audience room to absorb his revelation. "I was chasing speed when I should have been chasing direction." A ripple of murmurs swept through the audience, each entrepreneur reflecting on the relentless pressure to scale, to impress investors before competitors did. Ethan took a sip of water, his gaze sweeping the room. "Let me tell you what happened." In his early 30s, Ethan's journey began in a cramped garage with 2 friends and a single laptop. The idea was revolutionary yet simple. Local delivery for small businesses that couldn't compete with the giants. He remembered knocking on doors in a humble Chicago neighborhood, asking shopkeepers if they wanted to sell online. Most laughed, some even slammed doors in his face. But one old grocer, Mrs. Fernandez, said yes, becoming their first client and an unexpected mentor. "She told me something I never forgot," Ethan said, a faint smile creeping onto his lips. "She said, 'Son, people don't buy convenience, they buy trust.'" By the end of that first year, CityCart had 50 stores on its platform. Ethan lived at the office, his body sustained by instant noodles and a relentless drive. After countless pitches, an investor finally said yes, a venture capitalist eager for growth at all costs. "That was the beginning of the end," Ethan whispered, a shadow of pain crossing his features. As he recounted the story of CityCart's rapid expansion, Ethan described how they leaped from 1 city to 15 within 18 months. Their valuations soared, and they hired hundreds, burning through millions of dollars in their pursuit of success. Every day felt like victory, he mused, but inside, he was losing sight of what truly mattered. His voice grew somber as he recalled the pivotal meeting with his CFO, who warned that the company was losing cash faster than it could earn it. "We need to slow down," she insisted, but Ethan laughed it off. "We're a rocket ship. You don't slow down a rocket ship." The phrase took on a life of its own within the company, printed on t-shirts, echoed in meetings, until it became a curse. As CityCart missed delivery deadlines, customers began to complain, shopkeepers left. And yet the board continued to push for more growth. Then one day I walked into the office and realized half the desks were empty. People were leaving not because they lost faith in the product, but because they lost faith in me. Silence enveloped the room, a palpable tension, as Ethan's words sunk in. That's the first business lesson I learned the hard way. Lesson number 1. Growth means nothing without gratitude. If you can't appreciate the people who help you climb, the fall will teach you how much they mattered. Within a year, CityCart declared bankruptcy. Its demise splashed across media headlines as one of the fastest collapses in startup history. After the fall, Ethan faded from the business world, retreating to a small coastal town. He sold his flashy sports car and began teaching at a community college. For the first time in 15 years, I had no investors to impress, no targets to hit, and no emails at 3 a.m., he reflected. A bittersweet smile, replacing the weight of his past. But he felt lost, unsure of who he was without his former identity. Months passed as he adjusted to this new life, rediscovering himself through books, not just business manuals, but history, philosophy, and even poetry. I began writing in a notebook, 1 page every morning. It started with anger, then regret, and eventually, clarity. From this clarity emerged a new understanding of business, not as a race, but as a relationship between values and vision. That's when I started my next company, he said, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. Ethan's new venture, Horizon Loop, was unlike anything he had done before. It was a consultancy focused on leadership and rediscovering purpose before pursuing profit. No investors, no rush, just impact, he emphasized, each word resonating with sincerity. He began small, aiding local businesses in enhancing their culture and communication. Within 3 years, Horizon Loop was collaborating with Fortune 500 firms. When a voice from the crowd asked, "What changed?" Ethan replied, his eyes twinkling, "Everything, especially me." He elaborated on how he stopped making decisions to appear smart and began making them to remain useful. I realized that great companies aren't built on ambition alone. They're built on alignment. Lesson number 2. Success isn't a goal. It's a language. You don't chase it. You learn to speak it fluently through consistency, humility, and vision. One evening, after a seminar, a young entrepreneur approached him. "Sir, if you could go back to your old self, the one who built CityCart, what would you say?" Ethan pondered for a moment before replying. "I'd tell him that money is a poor mirror. It shows you your reflection, not your reality." He continued, his voice steady. "When you start a business, the world will measure you by numbers. Funding rounds, followers, revenue. But those numbers don't measure meaning. And meaning is what sustains you when numbers fail." He paused, letting the weight of his words penetrate the room. "I thought leadership was about being followed. Now I know it's about walking forward, even when no one is watching." Ethan shared insights from the early days of Horizon Loop, emphasizing the importance of trust in his founding team. Your company's culture is built in silence, not in meetings or slogans, but in how people talk when you're not around. He spoke of his 3 guiding questions before making decisions. 1. Does this align with our purpose? 2. Would I still do this if no one knew about it? 3. Will this make us proud in 5 years? If all 3 aren't yes, we walk away, even if it looks profitable, he stated firmly. Profit comes from integrity, not the other way around. Lesson number 3. Integrity compounds faster than interest. By now, Horizon Loop was thriving, but Ethan refused to label it as success. "I don't believe in comebacks," he said, the conviction in his voice clear. "You can't come back from something you never understood. You move forward with new meaning." He presented a slide with 2 curves, one steeply rising, the other steady and gradual. The first was CityCart, fast, famous, fragile. The second is Horizon Loop, quiet, consistent, and built on purpose. The audience responded with soft applause, recognizing the raw honesty behind his words. Today, I mentor more failed founders than successful ones. Because that's where real business wisdom lives, in failure that refuses to quit. He sighed, his steps slow as he crossed the stage. Let me tell you something every entrepreneur needs to hear at least once. Lesson number 4. You don't need more motivation. You need more meaning. Motivation runs on emotion. Meaning runs on principles. One burns fast, the other builds forever. People ask if I'm rich again, Ethan chuckled, a twinkle in his eye. I tell them, richer than ever. He explained that wealth isn't about material possessions, but about creating something that outlives oneself. Wealth is reputation multiplied by time. He recounted Mrs. Fernandez's handwritten letter before her passing, echoing her wisdom as she had urged him to bring people back to the essence of business, serving others. That, he said softly, is what success looks like to me now. As he surveyed the auditorium, filled with eager faces hanging on his every word, he imparted his final lesson. If you leave with only one thing today, let it be this. Lesson number 5. Don't build a business that outgrows your soul. He paused. If your company becomes bigger than your capacity to care, it will collapse under its own weight. But if your heart grows faster than your revenue, you'll never lose balance. Because in business, as in life, the real bottom line isn't profit, it's peace. The room erupted in applause, but Ethan merely nodded, stepping off the stage, leaving behind a silence filled with reflection. In the days following the lecture, attendees flooded social media with Ethan's quotes. Yet it wasn't the words that mattered most. It was the shift in mindset. Some entrepreneurs chose to slow their growth and prioritize culture. Others began reaching out to former employees in gratitude. Many finally grasped the truth that failure wasn't the end. It was an unexpected MBA. Ultimately, Ethan's lecture didn't merely inspire. It redefined success for a generation that had lost sight of their initial purpose. And somewhere in that quiet coastal town, Ethan Cole smiled, knowing he had built something that would never collapse.